Okay, hello everybody. Second try because we had some glitches apparently. And Adrian, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Maybe he'll tell me. Adrian from the USA. I think he's in Europe, Central Europe right now. And he's a linguist and an accent coach. So let's see if this time he manages to see my invitation. Um, So in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do. I'm also an accent coach, but in French, for French. And Adrian is an accent coach for English. So that's what we are going to talk about today. So I think now he's joining us. Okay, it's been a few times that he's been sending me requests and I've been sending him requests, and then we are accepting each other's requests
Oh,
and it's not working. Ah, now you're
okay.
here?
Yes,
Hello.
works.
Now it's working great. How are
Yeah.
you?
Good. How are you? Are you better?
Yes, so I was just telling in the first live, and we studied it again, that my voice is a little bit hoarse today, but I'm much better because I'm in Rio right now, and there's this kind of a flu going around, and so everybody where I am caught it. We all caught it at the same time, and now I'm much better. And
Okay.
where are you right now?
Right now I'm in Zagreb in Croatia. So I'm in Central
Uh-huh.
Europe, I'm actually.
Yes. So it's the same time as in Paris, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So, can you tell us actually how you ended up there in Croatia?
So, well, I have been living in Central Europe for the past 6 months, actually. I like it here. I was in Hong Kong during the pandemic. I went back from New York to Hong Kong to attend a wedding, which got canceled because of the pandemic, and then I got stuck there for a year and a half, and then I left Hong Kong and just ended up in Central Europe just because I like the area. It's a nice place. I've been in Poland, Hungary, and in Croatia, so I kind of move back and forth between those three countries. Yeah.
Okay, and how did you hear the first time about this area of Europe that you ended up liking?
So it was actually a couple of years ago, I think. I just wanted to travel in Europe for a bit. I actually just had quit my job. Um, as I was previously working as a designer, but I always had like a background in linguistics, and we'll get to that in a second on one of the questions. I think that it's about how I got started, but how did I hear about that part of Europe was just I had been learning. I had always been interested in Slavic languages, and so I decided to spend some time in Poland, and and then Croatian is also a Slavic language, and now I'm learning Croatian, and yeah, I'm learning Croatian, Polish, and Russian right now. So I kind of like
Wow.
these is where I have interest in language. Yeah.
hmm I was actually in Poland in November or October. In October, I was in Poland. I was there many times, and especially in the south in Katowice.
Oh, Katowice. Okay, I lived in Krakow for like now about 8 months actually in total.
Ah, yes,
So it's like an
it's a
hour
very
away.
beautiful city.
Yeah. What were you doing
Yes.
in Katowice?
I'm actually also a Brazilian Zouk teacher, and that's why I'm in Rio because I came here for the dance the first time.
Oh,
And actually, they have an amazing scene in Poland, and I think in Eastern Europe in general. They are really amazing at Brazilian Zouk. They are
really?
very good dancers in general.
Oh, I didn't know about that actually. I knew
There
that
are
like
some
certain-
people say that they are better than Western countries.
oh, interesting. I've actually never heard of Brazilian Zouk. I've heard of Zumba and like other like bachata, and those are popular. Bachata seems to be very popular in Croatia, and it's also quite popular in Poland, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of these Latin dances are. part.
Yeah, salsa and bachata in general, they tend to be more well known.
Yeah.
But actually, the bachata you see nowadays it's really been transformed from what it used to be. And actually, they've been very inspired by Brazilian zouk. So a lot of things that you'll see now in bachata or bachata sensual, as they call it, is actually from Brazilian zouk. All the body waves, all the body movements, it's all from zouk, Brazilian zouk.
Brazilian
Yeah,
Zouk. Okay. Is that Zouk?
that's it. Yes,
Okay,
they
I've seen
actually.
it written before. Yeah.
Yes. Some people, especially in France, confuse it with like Creole zouk or like the zouk that they have in some French-speaking islands. But it's actually not the same thing at all. The only thing they have in common, at least that they used to have in common, was the music, because actually it's the lambadas, you know, lambada. Ta na 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 ta na na na
Oh,
na na na.
yes, I
na.
know that song. I'm not very familiar with dance actually. Although I
That's it. So.
some types of dance, but like I wouldn't call myself a dancer. Yeah.
Yeah. So usually people know this song, yeah, and it's lambada. And actually, Brazilian zouk is lambada, except that the music at some point was boycotted, and they had to use some other music. They started using zouk music, like picking the radio waves from the islands, and that's how it all started.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
That's cool.
Um, so let's see. We'll start with a couple of questions, the ones we had planned, and then we have some questions that people already asked on my profile. So let's get started with the main questions. Just in general, can you tell us a little bit more about your activity? So as a linguist and accent coach?
Okay. Well, as a linguist, that just means I study language, and not just languages. Although that's another meaning of linguist. I like to, for example, in linguistics, you got things like phonetics, where you study sounds, phonology, where it's also about sounds, but like how they interact, morphology, how words are put together, and syntax. So I do that sort of stuff. My main focus is on sounds, phonology, phonetics, and also dialectology. So like how different dialects are different from each other. And I also just like learning about the sound systems of different languages, which helps me teach my students. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as with regards to what I like my business, which is accent coaching, um, I have two main types of things that I teach, which are pronunciation and accent reduction. And they're kind of related, but not exactly the same. I would say the pronunciation is kind of like getting the basic sounds right to a degree such that that other people understand you and you don't have miscommunication, misunderstanding. So getting it good enough that you can be understood. And then accent reduction is where you can already pronounce things quite well, but you want to sound more native and less foreign, and you want people to not immediately tell that you're not a native speaker. So those are my two main things that I teach: pronunciation and then accent reduction. And with accent reduction, it's kind of like more of a something that comes after the pronunciation lessons. You have to have good enough pronunciation to go to accent reduction.
And that's a very interesting distinction you just made, actually, because so many people confuse the two. And I've seen sometimes on groups people talking and saying that, oh, you shouldn't have to change your accent. You should be accepted as you are, but it's not about that. And also, there's a difference between being accepted for who you are and still being able to communicate, so pronunciation, and then people who want, for various reasons, to have a better accent, either for their personal fulfillment or for work purposes or other reasons.
Yeah, I've actually had some like I know some people that are quite against like this thing called accent reduction. You can also call it accent neutralization or accent modification. And honestly,
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, it's a part of me. You shouldn't have to change it. And I don't tell people like, oh, you have to change your accent. But there are people who do want to. They want to blend in, or maybe it's better for their work, and they want to not, like for example, lots of English teachers that are not native speakers want to sound more native in order to, like, to be more respected, which is kind of unfortunate because, like actually non-native speakers of English might actually teach English better. like they have to learn the grammar. They had to go through the same things as other the people that they teach. But yeah, so I'm not like telling people, oh, you need to fix your accent. I'm just helping them because they, for whatever reason, they want to do that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And actually, I was just telling someone about that not long ago. Some people at least come to me. You've probably had people like that as well. Sometimes because for professional reasons, they want to be, you said more respected. There's a bit of that, but just like taken more seriously.
Oh yeah.
I've had also some parents who, and you've made a video about that, parents,
Oh yeah.
parents or parents,
Yeah.
um, but who wanted to pass on, I guess, or transmit some of their French knowledge, but they still had a pretty basic level of French, but they wanted to get whatever basic level they could transmit. They wanted to get that, to transmit that in a way that would sound natural. So they wanted to get the sounds right because they knew it was important for their children. So I've had this kind of people as well. And then some people, just for the fun of it, they love languages. I love languages. I know I love getting my pronunciation right if I can in the languages I'm learning. So sometimes it's just for fun as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I love this thing as well. I was reading a book on Polish phonology over the like last year, and it helped me like create lessons for my Polish like students of Polish background. But I just like improving my Polish accent when I speak Polish as well, and things like I think I also read a few articles on Russian pronunciation, and it's really interesting. These things are not taught in school, and you don't need them at all, like to be understood. But like, I want to sound more native. I want these like little things I can actually tell my Polish friends. I'm like, did you know that? Like, can you say this word? Can you say this word? Did you notice that these sounds are like slightly different in these different contexts? And then they're like, oh my God, I never noticed this, and it's fun. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't studied much those languages, but I remember learning something about Russian and how they had this sh sound, where for me there's only one sh sound,
Oh
and for
yes.
them there was one where the tongue was a bit more at the front and one was a bit more at the back, maybe like
Yeah.
sh and sh or something like
Yeah,
this.
渗泄 probably 渗泄. But actually for Russian, like they have what's called like soft and hard sounds, and basically every sound can be hard or soft. It's like you got m and n and b and b, v and b, and they're all like
To
what's called
you see
palatalized.
what you're doing, you'll tell me, of course, it's probably not that, but it sounds like the only difference is adding some kind of like Y
Oh
consonant,
yeah,
like E
yeah. It's
sound.
palatalized. It's palatalized. So it's not. It's kind of like it's. I think it's co-articulated, which means it's pronounced at the same time. So it's not like the y. It's like y. You know, it's like said at the same time. So your tongue goes up y, as opposed to saying the y. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of like a what I've noticed. I'm not exactly sure about this because I haven't read about it in the literature, but there's a difference between Polish words for like to me or me, like mnie, and Russian is like mnie, which is like it's the yes sound is at the same time, whereas in Polish it's like it comes after mnie versus mnie, and so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's these little things that I like to notice, and like this is how it helps me teach my students when I notice these
yeah,
different
yeah.
their languages and how it differs from English. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually that makes sense why, especially Russian speakers, when they've come to me, for example, for French lessons, they really had a hard time to like undo those two sounds and break them down. And they usually always add a y sound and a lot of vowel sounds. I guess you've noticed that as well in
Yeah,
English then.
yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I've noticed this myself when I was learning to pronounce certain sounds in Croatian, um, and then my Croatian friend was like, "Why'd you say it like it's two sounds? It's one sound." And I was like, "Ljubiti," and she was like, "No, it's ljubiti," um, and it's like, "Oh, really? It's one sound. I didn't notice that." And then that helped me understand how it functions, like how it's pronounced in a Croatian speaker's mouth, and also related to that is one of my Russian accent students or accent students who speaks Russian. She sent me a video about like how like this Russian YouTuber talking about how English speakers do this, and that's why you should do this as well if you want to improve your accent. So it was like a Russian YouTuber who teaches English accent, and like they showed how the English speakers would kind of break apart the sounds and say them in sequence rather than together as it is in Russian. And so these like you take these different sources from different places, and it really tells you like how the sounds are created. It's kind of like archaeology, I guess. Like you take like clues, and it gives you it helps understand the how things functioned in your subject matter, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, very good. Um, can you tell me, so I asked you this already a little bit at the beginning, but how did it all start, or actually what made you want to start teaching, especially accent coaching?
Okay, so this is an interesting story. Well, I'll start briefly at like the really beginning. So since I was a kid, I was always interested in languages. I grew up in a household. I'm actually from Hong Kong, but my parents are both American. One of my dad is from actually was born and grew up in the U.S. My mother lived in Canada sometime and in the U.S. as well sometime. So, but her parents, who also lived with us, are from like mainland China, and so we actually at home we spoke four languages. So we spoke English, we spoke Mandarin, Cantonese, and Shanghainese. So then those are three related Chinese languages, and they're kind of they're kind of similar to like I guess standard French and Occitan, I guess, and maybe um, like to a certain degree, like Portuguese and Spanish, they're all like really similar, but also quite different. And you can see the patterns. And so I was always interested in these sounds. And so then I decided, like I learned lots of languages while I was growing up as well, because I always wanted I like languages. I learned French as my first foreign language. It was the only one offered in school. And then I learned Spanish. I studied Japanese and then I went to university for linguistics. And there I studied phonetics and phonology as my main focus. And then after that, I graduated. But then I was like, okay, well, I don't want to teach, I don't want to teach linguistics. I don't want to like do research in the library all the time and stuff. And so I did design for a couple of years. And then it wasn't that fulfilling. And then I quit. And then I traveled Europe for a bit. And then I decided, okay, what shall I do after that? And I decided to teach English for a bit because a bunch of my class, actually not my classmates, my friends had been doing that, and I liked language, so I did that. Originally, I was teaching just grammar and words and normal things like that, but then as I was doing that, people saw on my profile that I had a degree in linguistics, and they were like, "You have a degree in linguistics? Can you help me with my accent?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can." And so I helped the students with their accents. I wrote materials for that, and then that like students started coming to me just for that. They told their friends, their friends told their friends, and they started like coming to me, and pretty soon like basically all my classes, like right now 95% of my classes are all accent reduction classes. And so that's how it basically started. I actually had no idea that people wanted to pay me to help
Wow.
improve their accent. I thought it was okay, well, people don't care about accent. I didn't know about this, but I can do it because I love doing this stuff and I know how to do it. I just didn't know people cared. And so that's how it started.
Wow.
Past 3, yeah, I think 3 years, I've been expanding this. I've been writing materials, making syllabi, specific classes for students of different linguistic backgrounds. I'm coming out with a video course as well next year. And so it's quite exciting. I love this stuff. It kind of was an accident though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, it shows how much demand there is, yeah, and not enough people maybe supplying yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's good for me because I love this stuff. So like even my free time, I'm reading about this stuff. I'm trying to, and
yeah.
I talk with people, I'm talking with my friends, and then they say something. I'm like, wait a second, this is useful for my class. Take my phone and like I type it into my materials. It's all in Google. Like I keep my stuff on Google Drive, so it's easy to access. But yeah, I just love this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great. And so, okay, next question. How does your coaching, you've told me a little bit already, but how does your coaching help your students to speak better and maybe get better results?
Okay, so I'll answer this in two parts. The first part is with success stories, I suppose. So a lot of students come because of their job. For example, English teachers. I've got a lot of English teachers. I've got one of my very long-term students, I guess over 10 months actually, is a Ukrainian who teaches English, and she speaks very good English. Her English is very good, but she wants to sound more native, and she's a perfectionist, and also she teaches English, so it's important for her as well. And so at the beginning, she had certain, like, she was very good, but you could tell she was a Russian and Ukrainian speaker, non-native speaker. But I think within like she was already very advanced, but like 6 months in, she was telling me people are starting to think that she's actually, like, she told me she had been mistaken for, like, for a native English speaker, like an American, maybe not from the same part of America as that American thought was from, but that guy thought she was from like another part of America, and
Uh-huh.
like now more and more people think that she's American, and she's happy about that. She's still taking classes because she's a perfectionist. I've got another student who's a teacher who's like, I think I got a Thai English teacher, and I've got a Singaporean English teacher. The Singaporean English teacher, she's a native speaker, but she speaks with a Singaporean accent, which is not a standard type of international type of English, but she's native. So she wants to be able to switch to something more like internationally recognized. And so I helped her with that with her accent, and now she's teaching. She's Yeah, I think she's still teaching from what I know. I think, and I have a tour guide from Japan, and in the beginning, it was hard to understand him for his customers, since he does tours, and it was because of his rhythm. The Japanese language has a rhythm that's very different from English, and so I helped him with that. And now, like, people aren't like fewer people are going like, sorry, what did you say? I don't understand you, and that sort of stuff. So that's really, like, it's really rewarding to see all these results.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things professors and just people in general, like, I have a lot of German speakers who have actually told me, I don't want people to immediately ask me, are you German? And that's happened like a couple of times, and so I help them with that as well. It's very interesting. But yeah, so those are success stories. And then I can start talking about how I go about helping students, like how I teach them. If I'm not sure if that's part of the question or if that's a different question though.
Now you can. How do
Okay.
you go about it? Maybe that would be another question. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Um,
those are some success stories, so that's how I help.
yeah, and that sounded great. And I think even in my own experience, when I learned Portuguese, and that's when I got a little bit like you, I didn't know that. Well, that people were interested in accent coaching and that even existed actually. And I started learning with a company that's called the Mimic Method. Have you heard about it?
I haven't heard about it. No, I'll check it out.
It's an American, I guess, company now. It was one guy at the beginning, and then it evolved a little bit more. And I did the Portuguese course for Brazilian Portuguese, and wow, I started realizing that I could really get better with my pronunciation. And then after a while, same thing, like you said earlier, like Brazilian people started asking me, "Are you from the south of Brazil?" Like they were maybe starting to mistake me for someone from another region, and that's super rewarding, I guess, for
Yeah,
any speaker. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's very
Uh,
rewarding.
we yeah, we actually have a live question, so that's why I wanted to go to that one before we
Okay.
continue. Someone, Hugo is asking, which is more important when learning a language, accent or vocabulary or both? What would you say?
I would say vocabulary is more important. Like, I mean, most people learn language to be able to communicate. Um, I mean, accent. as I said, it's kind of like it's more advanced. It's like
The
when you want
cherry
to.
on the cake?
Oh yes, exactly, or just gravy, you know. Um, Pronunciation is important, but then again, pronunciation and accent are different. I would say they're related but different. But you know, if you don't have vocabulary, how do you speak? Like, I mean, for me, actually, I actually know how to pronounce German. I just don't know what I'm saying. And I know how to pronounce Hungarian, but I don't know what I'm saying. It's kind of
Yeah.
not that useful. I can read all the signs. It's actually no, I take that back. It is a little bit useful because when I order things, I'm like, oh, can I have this Kürtös kalács, and like I can say it quite well, but I don't know how to say that. So like as a sentence, I just know how to say those things. So, but vocabulary is the building blocks of communication. You need pronunciation to actually be understood with those vocabulary, and then accent is just saying it well. But you don't need to say it
Mhm.
like that well. You just need it well enough to be able to communicate. And most people just want to communicate. Yeah.
Okay, so now, yeah, you are going back to that distinction you made earlier. So accent would not be the same as pronunciation. So in case that person was confusing both, you are saying that knowing how to pronounce, of course, is necessary. It's how you
Yeah.
pronounce the vocabulary you're learning, but then
Yeah.
making it perfect, the accent thing, it's gravy, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Hmm. Great, yes. Okay, in some of your videos, you talked about intonation and pitch. Could you tell me a bit more about this? What's the difference between both and how important are they?
Okay. I actually don't remember which videos I've talked about it, but pitch and intonation are related. Um, but I think of it as similar to notes and melody in music, right? So pitch is kind of the building block. Pitch is just the like how high or low your voice is or the sound is. So for example, if I go la 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 la, la is a higher pitch and la is a lower pitch. And then intonation is when you like how the pitch changes when you're speaking. So for example, when I'm asking a yes no question, it's like, do you like it? It goes up, do you like it? And if I am telling you, don't do that, it goes down. And so that's intonation. Like that's a rising intonation and a falling intonation. And that's intonation, whereas pitch is just like the individual syllable or unit, right? Pitch can also create things like lexical tone, like in Chinese languages, where you say ma 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 ma. They are different words. It completely changes the meaning. But that's pitch being used to create tone. That's not intonation, but pitch is like a building block. It's like a Lego, okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
So how important are they? Um, I would say pitch is important in English with regards to stress because English stress is a big part of English. It's kind of unpredictable and it can change the meaning of words. And so, for example, if you say like record, that is a noun, and if you say record, that's a verb. So if you say, I want to record the show, you will confuse people. You might confuse people because they're expecting record. Record is a noun, and then they're expecting a verb. You say, I want to record the show, and you're like, wait, sorry, what? So it can change the meaning of words. Also, you can say some words that don't exist. For example, if you say company, but you say company, you might confuse people as well. So like pitch is important for stress in that sense. And then finally with intonation, how important is that? I would say it's important, but it's also not super important for most people, just because, yes, intonation can tell you if it's a question or if it's like a statement or it's a list, but uh, but for most languages, it's actually kind of similar. A lot of languages do raise their intonation when they're asking a yes/no question, and a lot of them do drop the intonation when it's a statement. And so
In Chinese, they don't, right?
they don't do that. Yeah, exactly. So in Chinese
Mm.
and Russian, for example, like it's a bit different. But in my experience, it doesn't really like these speakers don't have problems with it anyway, so that's why I say it's not that important. Just for those who are interested, like in Chinese, to ask a question, you actually have a word that you add on to indicate it's a question. It's a question
Yeah,
word.
which is
But
ma, right? With a neutral tone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sometimes for
yeah,
yes or no question. In
yeah,
Mandarin, I studied a little bit of Mandarin.
yeah, yeah. It's I have to think about this because like I don't think about tones because it's kind of like a
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it's a neutral tone. 你好吗?
I remember like always wanting to
Yeah,
ask question and doing like ma, and then my teacher was always saying, "No, it's not ma, it's ma," and I was like, "What?
yeah,
I said ma." And
yeah,
of
yeah,
course, I was probably adding too much intonation or too much rising intonation on it, and she
yeah,
was telling me to really make it neutral, and that was super hard
yeah,
for me. What is neutral? Because for me, everything is neutral. I'm French.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I think for a speaker of European languages learning Chinese, for example, or tonal language, it's more important. Like pitch and intonation is more important because you got tones. But for if you're learning English, like you probably already do something very similar, you know. So it's not that's why it's not that important as well. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, but I had heard about what you said earlier about the difference between like I'm not sure I pronounce it properly, but uh, record and record or something like
Rec
this.
record and record. So
Record. So
yeah.
actually the vowel sound changes as well, right?
Oh, yes. That's another
Yeah.
thing that's about stress. So, stress in English is super important and it's indicated by several things. The most important thing is that it's longer. Like you say record and then you say record and you say computer and you don't say computer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Second most important thing is pitch, and so it's usually
Mm-hmm.
higher pitch. This is also important for Russian speakers because in Russian the stress actually has lower pitch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then and the third most important thing is that sometimes the vowels change. Stressed vowels are different, and this I think in French you don't have this. Like reduced vowels in French, I mean you don't have reduced vowels in French. They're always the same, I think. You know, and also
Are you talking about, sorry, the vowel length?
the vowel length. Sorry, what was the
No.
question?
What are you asking? If there is what in French?
I was asking if there's any reduced vowels. So, for example, when I say record, it's like a curd sound, and when I say record, it's like a o sound. So the vowel changes its sound. And
No, we don't have that.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Actually, as soon as I said that, I realized that French is quite different with this regard because in French you got all the stresses basically at the end, except for some words like where it ends in me, like nationalisme.
And
Or
it's not even on the words, it's usually at the end of a group of words even. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's one thing that's for my French students. That's something that I work on with them because they tend to move the stress at the end. So they say, I'm going. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to the city center or something like that. Instead, I'm going
Mm,
to the city center. And so, yeah, when a lot of my students from languages where the stress is completely predictable, they have trouble with English stress because it's unpredictable and you just gotta learn
mhm,
it, you know? Yeah.
mhm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. So there is still a vowel change. I was wondering if there are any words in English where really just changing or moving the stress over one or the other syllable would change the meaning, or does that always involve some vowel sound change as well?
But if, so you asked, is there a situations in English where just change the stress will change the meaning instead of without changing the vowel? And
Mhm,
I let me say this. When you change stress is indicated by three things in English. The length, it's usually stress syllables are longer, they're usually high pitched, and they usually have a full vowel. And so basically if you take the stress away, the vowel becomes if it's unstressed, the vowel changes to a reduced vowel.
like a
So
schwa or
yeah,
yeah.
like a schwa. So
Yeah.
usually there's not that many, but there are some basically stressed schwas. Like when you say um, revert. Wait, no. I'm trying to think of a word. Um, okay, I can't think of another word. This is the word that my linguistics professor um, gave an example of because he couldn't think of another word. And I remember this class, but he was like saying, for example, pervert and pervert. Okay, so it's actually the same sounds, but it's a different pitch. And what you have is vert is like both like the sound as the syllable nucleus doesn't
Mhm.
reduce, or it's like a stressed schwa
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And so pervert and is a noun and pervert is a verb. And so
Yeah.
in that case, yeah, the vowel doesn't change because it doesn't have a full and reduced version difference, or the full version and the reduced version are the same. But most vowels have a full version and a reduced version. And so, uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that answers your
Okay,
question.
so it's rare, but it exists. Almost like in Chinese when you have a change, except that you only have a dual change in English, just like in most languages, I guess. We don't have anything like that in French that I can think of, and I've really thought about it for a while. But in Portuguese, for example, they have a couple of they have a few examples. For example, when people want to drink coconut water, they should say coco, but usually they say coco, or at least a lot of French people would say, and that's poo, shit.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
completely
So
different.
minimal pairs, right? Minimal pairs. So like pairs of words that are like differ by only one unit. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they don't always exist, but they're very helpful in recognizing which sounds and which accent features are phonemic in those languages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, great. Um, so another question for you, how do you prepare your accent lessons, and how do you decide what's relevant, for example, for each student or class?
Okay, cool. So let me first answer how I decide what's relevant for students and how I order the lessons, and then then after that I think I'll answer like how I teach. So I think that's what was the question. And so when I start off with a new student, I usually have the first lesson includes a an accent diagnosis. And so what that is that we talk for a bit. I listen to the student and then I write down things that I notice. Like maybe the student they can't pronounce pa ta ka and they say like pa ta and ka, and it's kind of like softer. And I write down word examples, and then maybe the mispronounce, or they put the stress on where they shouldn't put the stress, and I just write all these things down. And from that I notice patterns. Maybe their V is good when it's at the beginning of the syllable, but when it goes to the end, it becomes F. And this is very common for Slavic languages. They say gif, like instead of give, but they can say very with for like no problem. So I write those things down, and then I take from my list of lessons, my index of lessons, and I kind of order them. And how I order them for the student is that I try to think about how important the sound is and how easy it is, those two factors. I want to teach the most important things, but not all of them are easy. And sometimes they build on previous concepts that we will need to learn. And so that's how I order that's how I decide what's important. Also, it's usually the students from similar backgrounds have similar problems, but sometimes they don't, because some students have already worked on certain sounds. Maybe they've worked with a previous accent coach or just worked by themselves on something, and so I won't teach those if they're already doing well. Or maybe they're having difficulty with certain sounds, like much more difficulty than the average student. So we'll focus on that as well. Um, and then how do I go about teaching my students? Is that, like as I said, I like learning about languages. I like learning how their phonological systems are different between languages, and then from this it helps me to like make specialized lessons for my students. So, for example, with French students, often stressing things at the end, I will teach them more stress-related things to target that. Or maybe in French you don't really say pa ta ka that much, I think, or at least in a lot of Romance languages, it's not really like you don't say pa ta ka, you say like pa ta ka. And the stereotype of the English speaker learning Spanish, for example, is that they say "Cómo te llamas?" It actually should be like "Cómo te llamas?" Right? It should be like "Cómo te llamas?" and not "Cómo te llamas?" Right? And so that if you think about the English accent speaking those languages, then you'll know about your own language, like
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
it's different. Um, besides that, I also like to, since I have a background in linguistics, I'm trained in linguistics and like articulatory phonetics, like how you articulate the sounds. I know how the mouth is shaped and how to create those sounds. And so one example of how I teach and how I take this complex these complex concepts and make it into something more practical for my students. It actually wasn't from one of my classes, but from my university days when I was in a language club, language learning club, and I was helping an American classmate to pronounce the French U sound. In English we don't have U, we have U, and in French you have U, and it's really important because if you say où es-tu, it makes no sense. It's like où es-tu, like where are you? But if you say où es-tu, it's like a completely different word. And so I was
A
teaching.
very good one that you can use for your students, because I usually have also this issue. I've made a dialogue, and one person says at the end, tu vas bien, and then at some point the next person says, tout va bien.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so a lot of people pronounce both the same, but one is, are you okay? And the other one is everything okay here? So it's a bit more
Yeah.
general, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a phoneme. It means like if you change the phoneme to another phoneme, it changes the meaning entirely. If you do that in English, like if you say, I'm going to school, and if you say I'm going to school, the second one's kind of weird, but it still means the same thing. You just have an accent. But in any case, I taught this student to pronounce U by understanding how the mouth functions. And I told her, just round your lips like you're sucking out of a straw, and then keep it round. And while you're doing that, try to say E. And so what happens is I tell her, squeeze your lips round like this, and then try to say E. E. And what you get is U. And the
Yeah.
reason for this is that both E and U are high front vowels, and the only difference between them is that one is rounded and one's not. And so
Yeah.
high front vowels means that high is when your tongue is high in the mouth, E, A, E. So your E is a high vowel, and then it's front. It's like E and not E. And the only difference is the rounded lips. And so by
Mm-hmm.
translating this phonetic knowledge into like exercises, I can help students like control their mouth and feel how the mouth feels, and like where the tongue is and where the lips should go, and then
Yes.
teach them to create these sounds. Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah, roundedness is a very important concept in French.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yes.
it also, you've got these vowels in Chinese as well. So like
Mm-hmm.
yu and as well. Like is very
Yeah.
important, like jue, for example. But yeah, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of these rounded vowels in French.
Mm-hmm.
Not much in English. We have o and u and yeah, o and u and all, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if I really take all the ones that are even just a little bit rounded, we have, I think, at least 7 in French, because we have U, ou, o, e, that's 6 already. I counted 7 at some point. And the nasal vowel, so 2 nasal
Oh
vowels
yeah.
actually. On, on, even on is slightly rounded. Of course, you can sometimes smile and say on, and it works. But when you really speak
Yeah.
properly, you're supposed to round your lips a bit on, so it could actually be 8.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Round is important. It's one of the easier
yes,
things to teach as well, though. You can see it. Like the difficult ones are when it's at the back of the mouth. You can't see it. But the roundness
yeah,
is kind of,
that's
it's
it.
luckily it's easier to teach because you can see
Yes,
it actually. Yeah.
yes, yeah. Okay. And who would you recommend then to have accent training with you? For whom may it be useful?
Okay, so yeah, so I have two. I will soon have two different types of like teaching material. Like I'm coming out with a video course program, and I will continue to do like one-on-one coaching. And so right now I don't have that many spaces for coaching. It's my because that's the like I got a lot of students for that, but and this is helpful for students who want more of like one like more focused my attention. Like when I listen to them, I can really pick out their individual problems and like see the detail, like hear the details. I will probably have more spaces in sometime next year, like maybe early next year. And this is different. Like personal coaching is different from a video course. A video course, in the video course, you can like go on your at your own pace. It's more general, but you know it's you can go at your own pace and like well, it's cheaper as well because it's a video course. But it won't have the same type of personalized attention, and usually I think more like if you need more, if you really want to check a certain like sound or a certain bunch of words, or like maybe you have a presentation coming up, then personalized coaching can be more helpful. One more thing is that personalized coaching, like some of my students like take my classes just because they find it hard to practice on their own and they want someone there. So I'm kind of like a personal trainer, like when you go to the gym, they come to me to make sure that they do practice, which is, you know, practice is one of the most important things, right? You got to build that muscle memory to get the accent like into a habit so you don't have to think about it. But yeah, that's the main difference. Personalized coaching is, you know, you got more attention and more personalized materials and exercises and accountability. And then for the video course, it's more of like if you can handle your own study and just it's more general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the kind of people you'd recommend to have lessons with would be people like you said earlier who want to have well presentations, or maybe so people who work with tourists or this kind of people.
They can definitely benefit. Honestly, I think anyone can benefit, but it's more about your learning style and your needs rather than
Okay,
like
let's see.
rather than your professions. It's more like are you able to motivate yourself to practice on your own, and you are not, it's not that urgent, yeah, then you can probably take the video course. If it is it more uh, do you feel more comfortable when you know there's someone there like listening really intently to how you're speaking, and someone who will make materials specifically for you, then that's, you should go with personal coaching. Yeah, personalized.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when your program is out, you let me know and I can post it in my stories.
Oh yes, yes, definitely. And like if any of the followers want to keep up to date, they can also follow me on IG or like Instagram or Facebook. Um, I also have an email list that I'm working on because apparently that's the thing to do. I'm not that good with like marketing and stuff, but like apparently people sell or like inform people about the updates about video courses and stuff on email lists, and you can find that on accentamazing.com/links. You'll see all the relevant links there, and you can also just follow me for free material, like teaching material. I'm trying to do more social media stuff, but mostly I've been working on the video course, and I've been working on like updating my exercises for my current students as well. But yeah, so that's accentamazing.com/links yeah, for anyone who's
Great, and we'll add it in the comments as well.
okay. Oh, cool.
Yes.
All right.
One last question from the karaoke teacher, and he's asking, uh, how long is it necessary to spend time on a language to reach a B2 level, more or less?
Ooh, this one is difficult to answer because that's more about like grammar and words. That's actually not my specialty, and
Yeah,
honestly, I would imagine it's more like it depends like on how much you study, which is also, um, you know, I also answer this sort of give this sort of answer when people ask me how long does it take to get rid of my accent, and like it really depends on like your current level. It depends on how much you study and how like and how much you know about accent reduction, and how, you know, how diligent you are.
yeah,
So it really is about like knowing how to do it and then doing it so that it becomes muscle memory. And so I imagine that's the same with like reaching B2 level. for just in like general language learning. But yeah, then again, it's not
Yeah.
exactly not my specialty. I work with
Yeah. And also, I guess it depends on the target language as well.
oh yes, and your native language as well, because like certain languages are
Yeah.
harder. Like someone learning, a Russian speaker learning Polish will have much less difficulty than like a Chinese speaker, for example. It's like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
super. I mean, it's
Yeah.
much more similar than Chinese is to Polish, for example.
Yes. Yes. And one last question, I almost forgot that one, but in my story, someone had asked, and she's a coach herself, not quite a language coach, but I think she's asking as a coach, how do you adapt, for example, your style depending on where people come from, depending on their origin?
Okay, so I think I sort of touched upon this before. So with regards to a linguistic background, like if I know this speaker is from a Chinese background, um, then it's likely that rhythm is very different, and so I'll teach more rhythm related stuff. Russian speakers have stress, like in English, it's a stress time language, but it doesn't have secondary stress, so I'll focus more on secondary stress. Um, um, Lessons. And then like a lot of European languages, except for Germanic languages, don't have aspiration, which is the putaka sounds, and so I'll have to teach those things. I have like syllabi with lessons in them, and I kind of follow that to teach those students, and so that's how I adapt it for students of different linguistic backgrounds. If the coach that was asking this question was asking about cultural background, then that's also something I'm interested in, but it's not exactly like what I teach. But I don't know, like for example, some students are like they like to talk more, and they prefer lessons which are just more casual, and so I'll have more casual lessons and more free speaking. And some students are more shy and maybe they're just like they don't talk as much, so we'll have more structured lessons. And one interesting thing about this is actually something that I learned actually was that um, like Russian speakers don't like that much like what's it called? Like small talk. But I actually use small talk. One for my lessons because it helps me like hear their accent, and two also because well, I guess American culture it likes small talk, and English speaking culture does like small talk. So I at first I felt that the students were of different backgrounds might feel like well, they're different culturally, and I felt like oh they're mean or something. But then I realized it's actually just it's just a different way of doing things. So if with regards to culture, it's like like read up about culture, see what people of different places, how they go about doing things, and then also as you teach more, you get to feel kind of like an archetype, and or like different types, personality types of students, and then you kind of adapt in that way. I think that's hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, yes. And talking about Russians, yes, some of them are very driven, and I think they're just really focused on their mission. And that's why I think they forget about the small talk, and it can feel like they are really like not happy or something at some point. But after a
Yeah,
while, after a few lessons, they usually start
yeah, yeah.
opening up a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So it's important to be flexible, and I like learning about different cultures as well. And like after living in oops, hit the table here. But after living in Central Europe for like in different countries here, like I got used to it. And I've lived in Asia, I've lived in the U.S., I've lived in the U.K., I've lived in Central Europe as well. And as you learn more about the world, you get to you can kind of adapt and
Hmm.
adapt your style and to what works for different people, like when you're communicating
Yeah.
and different people.
Yeah. I'll also answer that question. But on a different take, I guess, because I know this person is not a language coach, and I'm thinking more about the cultural side of things. Once I took myself a couple of lessons or a couple of sessions with two accent coaches for English, and actually didn't work out at all. And I was very surprised because I never usually have a problem with any of my students. And those two women were Americans, and the first one was from California, and it was maybe the stereotype of the very smiley Californian girl, and but she just talked so much, and so I felt like she was just doing all the talking, and she was all the time asking for what's the word? Not asking a real question, but asking, to be sure that it was all okay and that I was happy with the lesson. And actually, it got very frustrating as the lesson went. I got more and more frustrated because I felt like all the time, like she just wanted me to. Do you have this word? Acquiesce?
Acquiesce, acquiesce.
Acquiesce? Okay, acquiesce. She just say, yes, yes, I like it. And, it's really not in the French culture. I mean, some people might think, oh, the French are so lovely, wine, blah, blah, blah. But it's not at all like that. I don't know if you've been to Paris, but Parisians can be actually very on the go, very focused, not smiley at all. And I'm not like that, and I like to smile. But I have a limit, and I feel like it's important to also show how you really feel. And it felt like it was just like, as she was forcing something that was not natural, and so it really didn't go well at all. And at the end, it went so that she didn't want to continue lessons with me because she felt so bad, and she thought I was not smiling enough for her, and she got me to smile less and less because I was very annoyed inside. And so that never happened with my students. And of course, when I'm the teacher, I give my best, but I don't try to, force them to enter into some kind of attitude. I let them be. So, if we talk about stereotypes, Russians will be Russians and Americans will be Americans. But as a student, I didn't feel respected in my own maybe cultural attitude or whatever is that. And I think maybe for coach, that's important. I know when I teach students, I see first how they are. I'll start with the kind of neutral but happy, confident attitude, and then I'll see how it goes. I see if they are very focused and they really want to get, into the thing, dive deep and up, or if they need to talk because they lack some confidence and they need to feel like it's all okay. And depending on the person, I'll adapt. So I guess whether we're talking about language coaching or any type of coaching, that's important. So like you said, see first where they come from, but then also see individually what the person is like during the session.
Yeah, and maybe not just, I mean, yeah, it's true, like not just language coaching, but also in general coaching. But I would say actually in life, I guess, you're kind of,
Yeah.
as you're going through life and you meet different people, it's kind of like an uh you adapt, and
Yeah.
that's the best way to it be flexible, I think,
Yeah.
don't just force people to do what you want. I mean, you can compromise and find like a happy medium where it's comfortable for both of you, or you can even step outside your comfort zone and like really
Mm-hmm.
like learn something new. I like learning new things. That's why that's why I think I'm well suited to my job, because I keep learning
Uh-huh.
different things about accents and stuff, and like sounds. And then I love I love learning about different people and different cultures as well, which is why I'm still living in Europe. I'm still here 6 months later. Yeah.
Yeah, and it shows that you're well suited to your job. When I watch your videos, you really like what you're talking about, and we can see in your videos that you are doing research on the side because you like it and it's fun for you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I want to make more videos. I definitely need to learn about making more videos though. Like
yeah.
I have a lot of things I want to share. I just need to learn to make like the technical stuff. But yeah, yeah, definitely. I love
Yes, yes. Great. So don't forget, if you want to see, so is it Adrian or
Yeah, Adrian. Adrian.
Adrian?
I mean, it doesn't.
Adrian?
This is what I like about my name as well. It's like pronounced differently in different places, and I don't have to change the spelling. Maybe for French, yeah, but like Adrian in English, Adrian in Polish, and then Adrian in Spanish, and like in French, Adrien, I guess.
Uh-huh.
So I like my name because you can pronounce it whatever way. Yeah, but Adrian is the English pronunciation.
Adrian, yeah.
Yeah, 80,
So if you
80.
want to see Adrian's link and see a bit more about his lessons and so on, you'll check his link, which we'll post in the comments down below when we will repost the live.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
So thank you very much for having accepted to do this live and be interviewed. That
Yeah,
was really great.
and thank you for interviewing me. Thank you for inviting me to it. I had a lot of fun. It's great talking about this stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was really fun. Yes. Yes,
yeah,
I love talking about it. So have a good day, have a good Sunday, and see you soon.
yeah. You too. Right.
Ciao,
Bye bye.
ciao.